Hello, my sweet summer children. I'm back with the juice to get you through the long night. As you may know, our fandom, the Game of Thrones and of Song of Ice and Fire fandom, oftentimes we have disagreements, conversations, and battles between what's better, the books or the show, and blah, 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 and the books are better, and the show is better, and this is why, and this is why, and the show sucks. I mean, there is an entire group of book snobs that think Dan and Dave are absolutely incapable and the show sucks. So I'm not one of them people. I think Dan and Dave have done an amazing job adapting an incomplete book series. Always remember that. They do not have the complete series. It's not finished. So it's extremely hard, first of all, to adapt a book series and make it a show, but it's even harder to adapt a show that isn't even complete, like a book series that isn't even complete. With that said, there are times that Dan and Dave made what I feel is mistakes. So in this video, I will be going over the top worst show changes from the books. In the comments below, let me know what you think their worst mistake has been so far. Without further ado, let's get started. Number 5. Dorne. Of course, so this is echoed throughout the fandom. Like, people hate how the Dorne plotline was adapted. Like, if you even say Dorne or Sand Snake around some of my homies, they will melt into a puddle and dissolve. So Dorne has so many more amazing characters than what we have seen so far on the TV show. Like, seriously though, let me explain. So Prince Doran is kind of made out to look like some feeble fucktard in the lands of who gives a fuck what Tywin did to my sister and who cares that my brother was killed in King's Landing. Like, that's how the show kind of portrays him, but that's not really true. And then there's characters like Prince Doran's daughter, Princess Arianne. This girl is amazing. So Princess Arianne is banging Sir Aerys Oakheart, whom is a member of the King's Guard, who was sent to Dorne with Princess Myrcella to be her sworn shield. Arianne hatches this plot to crown Myrcella Queen of Westeros because by Dornish law, Myrcella is the rightful queen because she's older than Tommen. There are all these different characters and plots and subplots. There's even a Dane involved. Yes, that's right. There's a person from House Dane of Starfall, and his name is Darkstar. And there's also Prince Doran's son, Quentin Martell, who is over in Meereen trying to convince Daenerys to marry him because of some secret marriage pact that was signed between Oberyn Martell for Viserys to marry Arianne. It's just like so much juice. There's so much rich plot, and it was just dumped, and they decided to focus on the Sand Snakes and Ilaria Sand when they could have had Princess Arianne, who is like Oberyn with tits. And to me, what makes it worse is that almost all of these people are still alive in the books. That's right, Myrcella is still alive. But then what made it even worse is when you have Jaime and Bronn just toiling around Dorne trying to get Myrcella back. Like, none of this happens in the book. But sometimes the show does do things and, like, it's cool, but this wasn't one of them. Number 4, the underdevelopment of Robb Stark. So in the show, Robb meets a nurse from Volantis and falls in love with her and marries her, and the Red Wedding happens, and Walder Frey has Robb's pregnant wife stabbed in the stomach and killed. But in the books, it's not like this. So Robb Stark actually marries a lady named Jean Westerling. And the entire thing is basically a plot to destroy the King in the North. So in the Whispering Woods, Robb takes Jean's father captive. Later on, Robb storms the Craig. The Craig is the ancient home of House Westerling. So Robb is wounded. Jean's conniving ass family tells her to nurse him back to health. While she's patching him up, Robb gets the news that Bran and Rickon were killed by Theon. He's distraught, and she decides to nurse him in other ways, like with her maidenhead. And the next day, this fool marries her to protect her honor. So it's not like this stupid idea of Robb just falling in love with someone. He was actually taken advantage of, and he fell victim to his own honor, which is kind of a Ned thing. And I feel like without this backstory, we don't get that. Jean's family, the Westerlings, are actually loyal to the Lannisters. Most all of the Westerlings stay at Riverrun while Robb goes to the Red Wedding. Jean and one of her brothers actually are loyal to Robb, but her mother has been in secret communication with the Lannisters this entire time, and she was secretly giving her daughter Moon tea so she would not get pregnant by Robb. Jane is still alive and she is in mourning. This whole change thing was just whack to me because one, killing a mother and her unborn child to like increase the travesty of an already tragic event was just unnecessary. But also it made Robb Stark look shallow as hell when actually it was the opposite. Like his true reasons for marrying Jane Westerling was to protect her honor. And Robb was taken advantage of in a moment of weakness by his enemies, and his war was lost from the inside out. So the Talisa thing and the Volantis thing and the stranger and Robb just falling in love with this strange common nurse, it just took away from all that. Number 3, Lady Stoneheart. And number 3 is kind of like, duh, like you had to know I was going to include Lady Stoneheart. The exclusion of Lady Stoneheart was one of those things that I just can't get my mind around. George R.R. Martin fought Dan and Dave for Lady Stoneheart to be in the show. Period. But she isn't, and she's not coming apparently. But Catelyn Stark is thrown in the river dead after the Red Wedding, and the Brotherhood Without Banners finds her, and Barrett gives her the last kiss, and she comes back as a corpse zombie that is taking revenge on the Freys and anyone that had anything to do with the Red Wedding. She is like the new leader of the Brotherhood Without Banners, and she's even almost killed Brienne and sent her to bring Jaime Lannister to her cave so she can kill him. I guess. I don't know. I'm pretty sure like she's gonna kill him. But anyway, besides the element that an undead Catelyn Stark brings to the story, there is also a lot of foreshadowing that it brings. George has said that Beric and Lady Stoneheart were the foreshadowing for Jon. So likely Jon is going to be changed when he comes back in the books. He's not going to be the same. I'm not saying he's going to be like Lady Stoneheart, but if you actually see Lady Stoneheart, then maybe you would look at bringing Jon back in the way that is not a good idea. But the exclusion of Lady Stoneheart was definitely a blunder in my opinion, and I think they tried to compensate for her storyline with Arya in season 7. Number 2, the Pisswater Prince. You may know him as Fagon or Aegon, but Fagon or Aegon is allegedly the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Elia Martell that was switched at birth and did not die. He was raised beyond the narrow sea with Illyrio, John Cunnington, and this entire bunch of shady people in some entire conspiracy. So Aegon is an essential part of the story. This big battle for Westeros and the politics surrounding it in the books, or like, okay, season 7 stuff where we have Jon in the north and Daenerys on Dragonstone and Cersei in King's Landing. If Aegon was included, we would have had Aegon coming from Essos with the Golden Company and taking Storm's End. Like, that's how big of a part he has to play in these books. The Golden Company doesn't come to Westeros for Cersei or Euron. They come with Aegon. Also, Dorne, Arianne, all of these people who were trimmed back from the show that actually appear in the books, they are coming to Aegon. Varys is doing sneaky shit for Aegon. Like, Aegon makes a lot of what people are doing and why makes sense. Like in season 1, we have Varys and Illyrio talking in the dungeon, which is straight from the books, but it doesn't make sense because Aegon is not included. But when season 1 of Game of Thrones was written, A Dance of Dragons wasn't out yet, and that was the book where Aegon was introduced. So maybe Dan and Dave didn't know later on there would be an introduction to yet another very important character and another entire plot, and they said, hey, we're just not doing it, it's too much. However, the exclusion of Aegon left out some of my favorite Tyrion chapters, and that's Tyrion when he is on the Royne River or the River Royne. Tyrion travels all around with Aegon and Septa Lemore and John Cunnington and the Shady Bunch before he is taken by Jorah, and it's just an overall good storyline. They travel down the river, and it's not Jorah that catches Grayscale, it's actually John Cunnington that catches Grayscale. But anyway, so Aegon is going to have a major part to play in the books, and I'm very sad that he was left out of the show. Number 1, the Spider. So I just talked about Aegon, and a lot of people love Varys, but one of my big gripes with Game of Thrones season 6 was that Cersei killed Maester Pycelle and Kevin Lannister. So the books They aren't this far yet, but in the epilogue of A Dance with Dragons, we do learn that Varys is not this servant of the realm that the show has painted him to be. Oh, it pisses me off to no end. Varys is actually not that much different than Littlefinger. The only difference is when Littlefinger is doing his plotting and scheming, it's always against the Starks, so we tend to not like him. And Varys is kind of plotting and scheming, but against the Lannisters or the Targaryens, whatever. In the epilogue of A Dance with Dragons, Varys kills Pycelle and Kevin Lannister. He does all of this, he says, for Aegon. So Varys killing Kevin Lannister shows Varys' true intentions, and they are not to serve the realm as the show would have us believe. They are to serve Aegon. Kevin Lannister was being a good hand. He had dismissed Cersei and was sending her away. She was to stand trial. He had mended relationships with people, and he was fixing the realm for Tommen's rule, and he was doing a good job, and he was gonna be a just hand of the king. But so what? Varys wants Aegon, and that's all there is to it. So Varys kills Kevin Lannister truly and solely out of ambition for Aegon. And the problem with this is that Varys isn't portrayed on the show accurately as the true villain that he is. They would rather Cersei be the ultra villain by killing her uncle and shit instead of showing how much of a villain Varys really is. There are so many changes that I could say that I don't like. There are so many characters that I could say that I wish were here. Like, I want to see the Black Flame. I want to see Patchface. I want to see all of these characters that just didn't make the cut. And it's very sad, but the show has a budget, and I already think it has the biggest cast of any show ever. So I kind of understand why things get scaled back the way that they do. But I think overall, Dan and Dave have done a good job at adapting an incomplete book series. But what do you think? What is your worst change from the books? As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone that supports me on Patreon. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and join the Sweet Summer family. Okay, my sweet summer children, have a good day.